Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka and we are back with another Twitter thread. Today we're talking about powerful pieces of generic support. Frequently, Konami will release a generic card that just happens to coincide with the release of a new, very powerful archetype. Case in point, check out a card like Bonfire. This card was extremely powerful for the Snake Eye archetype, but was also a boon for some terrible decks you may never have heard of. Laval, for instance. Today I'm asking you what awful archetypes just so happen to benefit from the targeted pieces of generic support Konami has released over the years. So let's see what you all came up with first. But this video is sponsored by Factor. We all know cooking can be hard. Worried about being too tired after a long day of work, or stunned by indecision once you open the refrigerator? Well, throw those worries away because Factor has you covered. Factor is a pre-prepared meal delivery service that makes eating well come naturally, no matter who you are. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, letting you skip the grocery store and the cooking fatigue. Got dietary restrictions? Factor lets you choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular ones like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie, so everyone can find something to fit their palate. And if you need a little more, check out Factor's more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help keep you fueled and good all day long. They're flexible too. If you're having a hectic summer and perhaps you're not going to be in for a week or need some extra meals for a family visit, you can change your order up with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause and reschedule your deliveries anytime. I spend a lot of time cooking over the week, and it takes up a huge portion of my time outside work. But now by using Factor, I have ready-made meals in no time, which removes the stress of cooking and saves us money. Now we can sit back, relax, and try to remember if we have a TMT due this week. Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders using my link in the description below. Click the link or scan the QR code with your phone. I truly believe there is not a single deck in the entire game that utilizes the FTK better than Dragon Maid. So Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres is hieratic support, but it's mostly been used in Dragon Link brews. But CJ is correct. It's shocking that Seals just like tributes itself to get Nurse, which summons another one back, and then if your opponent goes to battle, you can just plus to infinity by scooping up the boys from your graveyard. It's almost just Dragon Maid support. Back in 2017, Magispectors got a decent buff with the Wind Witches. The Wind Witches were a semi-generic series of cards that were also wind spellcasters and therefore synergized with all the terrible Majesty spell traps. Shay says, a generic Earth Machine support floodgate, letting you fuse entire boards away, is a hilarious part of modern Sidra lists. Do they play this? I assume they do. Like, I can't imagine a world in which, like, eat your opponent's entire board with a better Raigeki isn't worth an inclusion, but boy, that is just annoying. Farfa says, I don't even know what this guy was supposed to be, but for anyone who has ever played even a little bit of Burning Abyss, they understand how good turn 1 Beatrice is when all you have is Seer and one other name. Most random mid card ever was insane by virtue of being a Link one for us. This is actually crazy for a number of decks. Gravity Controller is also an honorary Shadow, just as a mechanism to get those cards into the graveyard if you start them in the EMZ. Maybe the most played piece of generic support that supported the most archetypes and never really felt broken. Dyer says, finally a better generic to play in Runic Raider instead of Small World. This is true. You can tribute the fusion monster you summon off of the Runic spell to special summon a monster from your deck with the same level as the tributed monsters, but return it to the hand during the end phase. So Sleipnir, which is a 9, ports into a 9. The problem with this card is that Runic Raider's issues aren't that it doesn't have enough starters. It's that it doesn't have the availability of the 15 non-engine that seems to be a prerequisite for playing this format. This card looks sick though. I wish says, Mathmech Circular, this card for Ogdoadic. For making any Superfactorial a part of your end board in a deck that can make 2 level 4s without locking, means that you can go Alimbertian, search Circular, and just make Superfactorial Heat Soul as the end of your combo. Oh, yeah. This is actually shocking to me because it's driving home how few decks actually make a rank 4. Will it finally become the next Zodiac? Have you seen what it's doing with this deck in particular? We haven't done like a TMT on this or anything, but check out Cam Neal's deck from the Points playoff. This strategy is not bad. After the Scarecrow ban, how many bad decks did you see this dude in? Ugh, this is one of the most U cards of all time recently. All the time it's showing up in Sub Replay Fridays and Dual Tainings and anywhere anyone wants to do some stupid bullshit. A running joke in the Luke Von Karma testing group, having Necroquip on field recoups the loss of getting ashed on your ships. Oh my god, Blackbeard is a fiend. So if they ash your ship, you can just port it to the graveyard for Necroquip? That's terrible. That's awful. Transaction Resurrection Rollback was expected to just copy Big Welcome a bunch, but it ended up creating a Paleozoic renaissance as Morella can just dump it, and it copies whatever the most broken trap you mill is, and then Leoncolia can put it back at the grave so you can just trigger it again. Marincess? Ice Barrier? Sharks? No. This card is for the birds. They're 5s. Of all the things that 2/4s can make, this one scares me the most. So many decks are like, oh, I'm just randomly making a rank 4? What if instead I was grabbing an Adamancipator Researcher? The queen of generic support. The queen currently living her best life in Fiendsmith and, I mean, just a bunch of Fiendsmith decks, right? Yeah. This one, I think, was meant to boost the power of decks like Snake Eye that theoretically just went through a rank 4, but instead it just became the machine that searches Nemesis Flag. This is clearly meant to serve Goatee. It came out alongside a second wave of support, but you know what else it can summon? Nightmare Throne is an in-archetype field spell with a very generic search for decks like Unchained, who now use the DBB package for 2 fiends. The awful deck it boosts, though, is Sacred Beasts. Now they have 1 additional Rhoda to start their awful engine. You know you can go Nightmare Throne, DBB, and like good decks? Although CDI was clearly designed for Sidra, any deck that could adequately abuse Galaxy Soldier was rewarded with a low investment Omni Negate. This was a classic inclusion in all manner of decks, but most notably ABC, which could also really benefit from having random names in the graveyard. Don't worry, Phantom Knight players. Now you have an easy way to make the rank up magics and make the powerful Dark Requiem Wait a minute. Best Metal Foes card ever made. That's not a generic link to. A searchable +5 that special summons itself. God, do I miss playing this deck. I played so much of this deck like 3 years ago, and then again when Illusion of Chaos came out. Just the ability to go send Jackal King, summon Magician Souls, draw 2, proc 2 combinations. Oh. Crazy how well the Armored Xyz cards are doing in a deck that does rank 3s and equips spells. You know what? I'm gonna have to take your word for it because, God, I do not know what Evil Eye is up to these days. We made a TMT for this deck like 6 months ago when the new stuff came out, I think in back. And I remember thinking at the time, this is pretty good. I bet it'll get some regional tops. And it got like 1 or 2. And then everyone stopped playing it at the exact same time. There are more non-VS cards that get Raisin than there are actual VS cards that do it. King Dempsey was played a ton in a lot of strategies as the copious way to search cards like Raisin ever. I see E-Telly morphing Jar 2 to an opponent's field and profit. We gotta do something about this guy. Royal Penguin's Garden searches for the best card in a completely unrelated archetype, all because the other archetype got lucky of the animals they picked for it. Also, did you know this card is a ruling nightmare that effectively puts you on the honor system? If you have 2 penguins in hand, there is no way for your opponent to confirm which one is the one you got that had its level reduced after revealing, so you just have to be like, nah, I had 2. This is level 4, and they gotta call your bluff or die. Really? Thankfully, that will never happen because I'm never playing against someone playing 2 penguins. Yes, very cynically, Konami wants us playing with the new shiny toys, and they will pay through the nose in the form of generic staples to get us to do so. But never doubt the average Yugist's proficiency when it comes to building jank. What's this? That's right, the Ghost Trick Boss Monster. I could not agree more!